You guys have seen it. We've also been saying it. Jeremy Fears has had a good start to his year, but is it actually an elite start to his year and career? And then, let's get into this Michigan State versus Rutgers battle on Saturday. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Spartans. It's your team in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below your prediction for the Michigan State-Rutgers basketball game. We're going to talk about that in segments 2 and 3 with Alec Crouthamel. He does great work over at the Knight Report. They cover Rutgers, part of the Rivals Network. For this first season, we're still going to keep it basketball. We're going to focus on Jeremy Fears. Yes, a little bit of a programming change. If you were one of the 8 people that listened all the way to the end of yesterday's show, I said, we're going to talk about the football portal. But we got the whole off season to do that. And we got to bring a tweet to the attention of Michigan State fans everywhere. And shout out to Trill Sparty. His account is YLJalen. He actually, a few weeks ago, just tweeted that he listens to pretty much every episode of this show. So thank you very much. And actually, Jalen, you are the executive producer of today's show. You are really setting the table well for this first segment because he had a tweet on Wednesday. And it reads like this: don't think people realize how generational of a talent we have in the floor general. Now, of course, he's talking about Jeremy Fears. Now, he compares him to Braden Smith, just an outstanding player for Purdue, all-world point guard. He very well could set the NCAA assist record at some time in his career. Anyway, so the first 35 games of Braden Smith's freshman year, he had 153 assists. Again, in 35 games as a freshman. Jeremy Fears, in 30 games, 12 last year, 18 this year, 155 assists. So already more in less games than Braden Smith. Okay, and he also goes to write, Braden Smith is currently on track to break the NCAA assist record. Why is this so crazy of a stat? If Jeremy Fears continues at this rate, he would be in position to have over 240 assists as a freshman. That is in the trajectory of being the best playmaker of all time. Not only that, he only plays 23 minutes per game. So let's take a deeper look at those numbers. Again, Jalen, fantastic work just tweeting that out to the masses. Because we've been saying, hey, Jeremy Fears, good year, really, picking up the game along well, as he's still under 30 games up until, the Illinois game. It goes even deeper than all that, though, because let's just take a look. Through 30 games, again, 12 last year, his season was cut short of that, tragedy that happened over the Christmas break. I'm not going to do the Gus Johnson version of it, where he was shot. I can't believe Gus Johnson has the gumption to say it like that. Regardless, anyway, on the ball mat, through 30 games for Jeremy Fears, 155 assists, 49 turnovers. That is a 3.16 assist to turnover ratio. Okay, let's look at other star players, how they were after their freshman season, their first 30 or 30-so games. Okay, again, let's remember this number. Jeremy Fears right now, 3.16 assists to turnover ratio. Braden Miller, his was 2.13. Okay, last year, in their amazing run to the national title, he was at a 2.8, so still not even above 3. That is an elite level that Jeremy Fears is at. And when I say all these numbers, please don't get me wrong. We're not trying to paint Braden Miller and, he's overrated. Jeremy Fears is way better than him. No, in this metric, a very important metric, assists, lack of turnovers, Jeremy Fears is hitting the ground running just as good, if not better, as you can see. Well, then a guy that's playing outstanding in West Lafayette. But let's compare him to other Michigan State legends, too. I remember a guy by the name of Cassius Winston. Okay, well, how was he after his freshman year? 2.36. All right, that is 0.8 better than Cassius Winston in his freshman year. Also, Cassius Winston, he never broke 3 in assist to turnover ratio. He was 2.8 as a sophomore, 2.6 as a junior, and actually sub-2 as a senior, but he was asked to do a lot. Also, Kalin Lucas, after his freshman year, 1.9 assist to turnover ratio. Denzel Valentine, 1.2. Even when he won the Player of the Year, he had a 2.8 assist to turnover ratio. Now, am I saying that Jeremy Fears is already better than Denzel Valentine? No, Denzel was asked to do a lot more in his senior year than Jeremy Fears is being asked to do in his. But it all comes back to guys, like this is a very important metric to hit the ground running with in your first 30 games. Really gives you a good feel of how comfortable are you with the game of basketball, the fast pace that it is. And it was kind of a slow, ish start. It wasn't a failure by any means, but a slow-ish start to the season. Guys, 3.16 is insane numbers. So let's just talk about this year alone, just the 18 games that he's played so far in his redshirt freshman season. 6.4 assists per game. Okay, that is the best amongst any sophomore or any freshman, however you want to categorize it, in Power 6 basketball. No one is doing it like Jeremy Fears is. And just like Jalen pointed out, doing this all in less than 23 minutes per game. It's outstanding. So in this little season that he's in right now that's still unfolding, 18 games in, he has 115 assists, 36 turnovers. That's a 3.19 assist to turnover ratio. That's 19th best in the country. There are only 2 kids in the top 40 that are playing Power 5 or Power 6 basketball. High major basketball is what we'll call it, that are either sophomores or freshmen that are in the top 40 for that. It's Boogie Fland, the freshman that's going to go top 10 in the upcoming NBA draft, whose season actually just ended with thumb surgery, and then Jeremy Fears. Everyone else, yes, if they're a freshman or a sophomore, they're doing it at a mid-major level, or they're just juniors or seniors, because usually that's how long it takes to get this good at the college game here. Now let's take another stat about assisting baskets. We're going to go with assist rate. Okay, that is the percentage of field goals assisted by that player when they are on the floor. When Jeremy Fears is on the floor, he is assisting on 44.6% of made baskets. That is the third highest, not in the Big Ten, not amongst high made, in the country. He is doing that at an elite level too. Now, if he continued this, finish the season at 44.6 assist rate, well, that would be the 5th best of all time at Michigan State. So I shouldn't say all time, since 2008 when Bart Torvik started tracking this. So at least in the last 16, 17 years, it would be the 5th best Spartan performance in assist rate. Right behind at first place, Cassius Winston, his freshman year, A.J. Hogarth's sophomore year, Denzel Valentine's senior year, and Cassius Winston's junior year. Not too shabby for Jeremy Fears. Again, just 30 games in his career. And it goes more than just assists too. I mean, guys, he's scoring the basketball fairly well, 7.9 points per game, and you've seen it ever since Big Ten play has started up after Christmas. He's getting more aggressive at finding his shot, whether it's three-pointers, whether it's driving to the lane. But not to say he was timid to start the year, but he's certainly getting more assertive with the basketball on the offensive end. It's everything that you'd want to see, whether it is a freshman, if you want to use that 30 games into his career window, or guys, even if he was just a sophomore, this is still really good progression from Jeremy Fears. And it's not just on the offensive side of the ball that has this just with a twinkle in our eyes as we watch the next great Michigan State point guard. Defensively, it's outstanding too, and that's a little harder to quantify with numbers and everything, but how about just as a unit, the guards, the perimeter, the wing players, whatever you want to call them, they're holding their opponents to 28.9% shooting from 3. That is 16th best in the country. So Jeremy Fears, of course, you saw the story, what happened at Oakland. Their guard is giving Michigan State the beats in the first half, and Jeremy Fears goes right up to Izzo at halftime and says, give me that guy right there. I want to make the rest of his night at Little Caesars Arena miserable. And he did. He made me relevant in that second half. He's had outstanding performances throughout the season against other teams' guards. And it's going to be a good time to have one against Rutgers because, Rutgers is 2 main guys, and then, does anyone else want to raise their hand and show up today? Those 2 guys that we're talking about, Ace Bailey, 6'11". Don't necessarily think Fears will be on him too much, but what we're mostly worried about is Dylan Harper, 6'6" point guard. He's going to go top 5 in the NBA draft coming up. It's going to be a tall task for him, but he's never shied away from one. He's never backed down from one yet. So it's going to be a good collective effort from that perimeter defense. We'll see what happens with Ace Bailey. I imagine Akins is on him for a little bit, even though he's given up about, 5 inches there. But hey, you know what? It's going to be a real good test for how good Michigan State's perimeter defense is, even against freshmen. Because, guys, the 2 true freshmen that Rutgers is playing, they're special. We get into it with Alec Crouthamel here in a hot segment. First, need to talk your ears off about Game Time. That's right, the greatest ticketing app out there. Now, let's say, hey, next Tuesday, Michigan State back in their home barn. Hopefully, they're still riding this win streak, and you want to go see those Michigan State Spartans take on the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Well, I know I am. I will be in attendance thanks to Game Time because, I don't even have the tickets yet. I don't need the tickets yet, because with Game Time, their last-minute ticket deals, you can just walk right into the arena, right into the stadium, right into the concert hall, wherever you're going to go to this ticketed event without any tickets in your pocket, because their last-minute ticket deals will still save you great money. Now, let's say that you want to plan ahead. You're a smart person. You do want to actually have tickets in your pocket a few days ahead of time. You can still save. With their flash deals throughout the week leading up to a game or a concert or any event that requires a ticket, their flash deals will save you that money. They also want to save you money right now, because when you create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, guys, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? It's game time. Can Michigan State stay white hot in the Big Ten, keep their winning streak rolling? Well, it's going to be a challenge against Rutgers. And yes, it's kind of been a season for Rutgers, 10-9 overall in the season. But our Spartans are coming to Madison Square Garden, where they are 4-12 in that venue under Tom Izzo. Guys, joining us to talk about this game, it is Alec Crouthamel of the Night Report, part of the Rivals Network. And Alec, do you like stupid questions? Do you just like really dumb questions? Because that's what I got to start things off here.
Of course. I mean, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
Let me test that right now. Just like I said, 10-9 overall right now. Things haven't gone so well in Big Ten play for Rutgers. 3-5 overall. This is with, and we'll talk about these two guys, two McDonald's All-American, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper. The dumb question is, like, what is the mood of the season right now for Rutgers fans? Just paint a picture of what things are like in Piscataway right now.
It's been kind of up and down, as it usually is for Rutgers fans. When things are great, they're great. When things are not going so good, it's pretty bad. But things were going pretty well, I would say, before this most recent loss to Penn State. They've won 2 in a row. It's like it seemed like, if they can win Penn State, Michigan State, then they're kind of back on not on the bubble per se, but they're on a track to get back on the bubble. But this loss to Penn State, where Dylan Harper rolls his ankle in the first half and is kind of limited for the rest of the game. Then Ace Bailey has 30 points on 15 shots, which is unreal efficiency, but then fouls out with 2 techs in the second half. So now it's kind of like, all right, the season's kind of back on critical condition. And then, with a loss to Michigan State, the Garden, it might officially put a fork in the tournament, at the at-large tournament hopes at least. So it's not great right now, but I mean, there's still, a month and a half or so until Selection Sunday. So there's still some time, but the time is running out quickly to put together a resume.
Is saying that Peichel could potentially be in the hot seat, is that too hot takey? Am I getting overreactionary? Or what is his temperature like over there at Rutgers?
Depends on who you ask in terms of fans. Some people say, he's earned his opportunity to turn this around. Some want him gone yesterday.
Okay.
I guess the reality of the situation is I don't think he'll ever get fired. He will be at Rutgers as long as he wants to be at Rutgers. The nature of his contract, I don't remember off the top of my head, but he still has, I believe, like 6 years left or something like that. So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not like he has 2 years left and he can, they could just not renew him. He still has a lot of time left. And I think he's built up that goodwill, turning the program around from, I'm sure, as you know, as a Michigan State fan, where one of the worst programs in not just the Big Ten, but in all of high majors period, into a destination for guys like Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. I think he's earned the right to see what he can do to fix it. And if, it's another season like the last 2 next year, that maybe have that conversation. But I think right now, at the very least, he's earned another year to fix it.
Let's talk about the 2 stars over at Rutgers, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, because I've watched Rutgers basketball here and there so far this season, but last week against Nebraska is the start of the second half, and I said, you know what? I'm going to leave my phone in another room. I'm really going to just zone in and see if these guys are, like, really as good as everyone says they are. Like, they can't be. Like, I know they're projected lottery picks, but oh my God, they are. They actually are that good at basketball. I couldn't believe it. They absolutely took it to Nebraska in Nebraska, which is a very hard place to play. Let's just start one at a time here. Dylan Harper, what has impressed you most about this kid's game so far this season?
I think it's his pace, honestly, because even at high school, you could see he kind of played the game at a different speed. And I mean that in a good way, where he controls the pace when he has the ball and he can really do whatever he wants at that pace. And he's continued to do that at the college level and in the Big Ten, especially. And I think it was at his best in the players area out in Las Vegas, where he drops 35 on Alabama, or I think it was 35 on Notre Dame and then like 37 on Alabama. These are like legit teams. Not in the Big Ten, but in the non-conference, I thought he's going up against, especially Alabama, who might be a Final Four team at this rate. I mean, he was able to do that very quickly. He hasn't had the best stretch in January because he got a nasty bout of the flu to start, and was not himself for a lot of the first 3 games of January. And then against Penn State, he rolled his ankle. He was obviously limited in the second half. I don't know if that'll continue against Michigan State. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's his pace really, and his ability to get to the rim by any means necessary. If you double him, he'll just split the double team, despite being 6'6", and he has the ability to get past his man as well and get to the rim really at will.
Dylan Harper coming into this game with a potential injury might be good news for Rutgers, because there's nothing better for Michigan State opponents than to have their star player hurt, because they will go inevitably nuclear that following game. So go ahead and book Dylan Harper down for 42 points this upcoming Saturday on a squeaky ankle. Moving into Ace Bailey, and this is a silly question for the Ace Bailey conversation, but what position does this kid even play? 6'10", he could do it all, though. Does he just play the Ace Bailey spot?
Yeah, pretty much. He's 6'10". I think he plays the 3.
Sure.
I think, yeah. He calls himself a guard. That he likes to be called a guard.
Yeah,
he plays
I get
like it too at 6'10", so it makes sense.
What's been his key to his game so far? Where is he the most dangerous? You think offensively?
Taking and making tough shots. I mean, this guy, he has some of the most ridiculous shots that go down I have seen ever, especially from a player that plays at Rutgers. I mean, the degree of difficulty on a lot of his shots is just unbelievable. He can hit he can hit on the catch and shoot in threes. He can pump fake. Every so often he'll do like a Dirk level, like around fadeaway off one leg that just goes in. It's weird. It's like, he hasn't been the best free throw shooter, though he has turned that around in recent weeks. It's like free throws are too easy for him, I said one time. It's like if it's, if defenders were allowed to contest it and he had to fade away from the free throw line, he would be like a 90% free throw shooter.
I wanted to bring that up, and I'm glad you brought like the whole Dirk thing, because, as I'm watching here and there throughout the season, you're seeing him just jack up fadeaway 18-footers where any other college coach would have him benched, if not his scholarship taken away with his shot selection. But holy crap, like they go in at the fishing clip. So 2 incredible players in Harper and Bailey, but you got to play with 5 on the court at the same time. What is it like outside of those 2 guys? Is there another X factor? Is there a guy that we're not giving enough love to? Or who is it outside of Harper and Bailey that can keep Rutgers in this game on Saturday?
It's been a bit of a mixed bag in terms of supporting cast. There's been guys that have stepped up and then they've kind of tailed off. And there have been other guys that have stepped up recently. They're looking to keep that up. One of those guys is Dylan Grant, another freshman. He got inserted into the starting lineup 3 games ago. Even a few games before that, when Rutgers was on its 3-game skid to start January, he was playing well, but he was getting some minutes off the bench. And then Steve Peichel inserted him into the starting lineup, and he's really been a force to be reckoned with on both ends of the floor. Not exactly lighting up the scoreboard, but he against Nebraska, he scored like 15 points on 7 of 8 shooting. He really has provided a different element to the starting lineup. He can defend, he can rebound. He's really lengthy. I believe he's 6'7", 6'8". So he's really been that perfect 4 guy to have. And then at center, the center position has been an interesting one for Rutgers. You bring back Emmanuel Bole from last year, who didn't play until like February because he was rehabbing from a torn ACL. He was the starter. He has struggled at times. He's had his good games. Like Nebraska, probably his best game of the season. He had 11 rebounds. I think he was a plus 17. Wow. And then there's another freshman, Lathan Somerville, that's gotten the starting nod over him the last few games. He's still working it out on the defensive end, which is to be expected. As a freshman. To be expected as a freshman center. They're still working out on the defensive end. But I think he has one of the most talented offensive games for Rutgers from a center that I've seen in a while.
So when it comes to, the projected numbers on this game, and we're recording a few days beforehand right now, so this isn't going to be the FanDuel line officially, but right now on BartTorvik.com, it has Michigan State as a 7-point favorite. They suspect the Spartans will win 80-73. Alec, what will keep Rutgers in this game? What's going to make them upset darlings? Is there anything that you like in this matchup that Rutgers can come in this game with? Or is it just, simply the fact that they're playing in my personal house of horrors, Madison Square Garden, a place where I just have no good memories of Michigan State? And is it that easy, you think? Or is there actually some X's and O's to it?
I mean, I think the biggest X factor is if Rutgers can hit their threes, because against Nebraska, they really hit their threes. They had a good game plan to attack Nebraska's defense. It set up a lot of good 3-point opportunities, and they did make them. The problem is Rutgers has struggled on defense. Really, if you get like a high pick and roll, they kind of struggle to contain that with, I believe Miles Johnson, who's one of Rutgers' former big men, I believe he said a couple weeks ago that, that screen coverage for Steve Pikiell's defense is one of the toughest things to figure out,
Gotcha.
especially as a freshman. So they're still kind of having trouble containing that. They've had trouble containing the three-point line as well, where teams will really get a lot of good looks offensively from the three-point line. So if they can defend the three-point line and make threes, it feels like that might be the X factor for this game. Then obviously the two freshmen being on their usual games as well.
Of course. So with this game being at Madison Square Garden, I remember this was kind of a to-do amongst both fan bases in the offseason. Is it a disappointment this game is at Madison Square Garden, or is this like a nice way to get away from the rack just, every once in a while to kind of spice things up on the season? What's your take on the venue choice for this one?
It's definitely not ideal to, lose a game, lose a home game and play it at Madison Square Garden. But at the same time, it's like you're reaching out further. You're bringing in a lot of those like New York City fans as well. Like Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey played at Rucker Park last summer or two ago, and that place was absolutely jam packed. Obviously, there were other star guys as well, but like those two were some of the bigger draws. That place was absolutely packed, and it's not like it's you leave Jersey Mike's Arena and you go to Madison Square Garden and all of a sudden it's like a 50-50 split. I mean, 2 years ago when these two teams played at Madison Square Garden, it was like 80-20 Rutgers fans versus Michigan State fans.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a part of it. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper want to play at this arena, so obviously you got to make that work for those guys. Steve Pikiell likes playing here. Obviously, he's also said he wishes he could play every single game at home, as I'm sure every single college coach would. But I think it's a good way to further reach out, especially when you're at you're one of the most paid attention to teams, I guess, for lack of a better term, in the country this year with those two stars.
Absolutely. And I remember that game 2 years ago. I think the final score was something like 28-25. It was a ugly game, even uglier for the losing team, which was our Michigan State Spartans. But how do you see this one unfolding? Because the projected score of 80-73, not to just keep bringing up the mystique of Madison Square Garden and Michigan State's pains there, I would be a little surprised if it's that high scoring of a game. But while I do expect and predict a Michigan State win, a close win, I do expect it to be, kind of maybe high 60s, low 70s. Where do you see this one netting out at?
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised. I think Ken Pom has it 79-73 as well. So that's, about similar lines. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan State brings this one home, mostly due to the fact that they have just insane depth. It feels like every single guy they put in has the ability to contribute. And if they are playing really well right now, I do think Rutgers can keep this close for a while, backed by hopefully two healthy freshmen for them and a crowd that, a bigger crowd than what they would get at Jersey Mike's Arena. So I think it'll be close. I do think Michigan State gets this game late because they have so much experience.
Yeah.
They have such a good supporting cast. They may not have the two best players on the floor for most of the game, but they'll probably have 3 through 8, I would say. So I think it's going to be a close game. I agree with you. I think it'll be like a 73-68 type game where it's close, but then Michigan State gets a couple shots to fall, hits some free throws in the final minutes.
I mean, it'd be big for Michigan State. I mean, at this point, every game's big. I sound like a wind-up toy whenever I talk about an upcoming game. But, hey, you know what? With Purdue falling the other day, if Michigan can hold court and then give Purdue – or no, I'm sorry. If whoever is the home team wins the Purdue-Michigan game, Michigan State can go up 2 games in this one. So this is a big one for our Spartans here. Really quick before we let you go and enjoy the rest of the weekend, Alec, just to check in on football. Our teams do not see each other this upcoming fall. We saw each other last fall. Kind of forgot what happened, blocked it out of my memory completely, but let's just get a general pulse on the Rutgers program. Safe to say things are going up. Is that just like the easy lazy man's take?
I think it is safe to say that things are moving up, especially with this transfer portal cycle. It really feels like the coaching staff has made a significant effort to increase their team building in the transfer portal. I mean, just looking at the defensive line, they've completely reshaped that room. They've already brought in 2 defensive linemen. I think they want 1 more. They bring in guys like Eric O'Neill from James Madison, Bradley Weaver from Ohio as well, a guy like Jet Elad from UNLV, who ended up getting an extra year because of that JUCO ruling with Diego Pavi and all that. They've made some additions on the offense as well. They brought in C.J. Campbell, a running back from Florida Atlantic, who kind of adds a new dimension that the offense didn't have as a guy who can catch passes out of the backfield. And then you also got a guy like D.T. Sheffield, who kind of fills that slot receiver role that Demir Miller is leaving behind. So I think they've done a really good job in emphasizing the transfer portal. And while this past year definitely left, I would say, some to be desired with the schedule, it's much more difficult schedule this year than last year. There were some close games that didn't go their way late. So it's going to be interesting. I think they'll be a better team, but the record may not show it. I don't want to say they'll miss out on a bowl game, but they could be a better team, just based on the eye test and go 6-6 per se, just because that schedule is so much more difficult. I think they play 3 college football playoff teams this year compared to, I don't think they played a ranked Big Ten team. Actually, Illinois is ranked 24 when they played, but
okay.
USC might have also been, I don't remember. But either way, nothing like that true top end Big Ten talent.
So we are passing the baton of, hey, playing 3 college football playoff teams in a season over to you guys next fall. The reason I made that face CJ Campbell, because MSU played FAU last year. I'm like, hold it, that name sounds so familiar. It's like, oh, well, that's why. And also DT Sheffield. I wanted him out of the portal. So he's found a home in Piscataway. So with the tough schedule and everything, like, what is the goal next year for Rutgers? What would define success for this program to keep on moving up in the Big Ten hierarchy, you think?
That's another thing that would depend on who you ask. I think it would be if they can make a bowl with that schedule, and then I think it would be considered a big success considering how many high end guys out of the transfer portal they brought in. If they can pick off one of those top teams, whether it's Oregon or Ohio State or Penn State in the last game of the year, I think if they can pick off one of those top 10 teams, it kind of would continue the upward trajectory, because if you're going like Rutgers in 2023, they went 6-6, but it was like all 6 games were like there were 6 clear wins and 6 games where probably not going to win. This year was a lot different. There was like 8 different 50-50 games, and Rutgers came out on the good end of some and the short end of others. So I think if they can pick off one of those top 10 teams, whether it's Oregon, Ohio State, or Penn State, I think that would be considered a success, and then make another bowl game. And I think continue to play a full, 12 games where you're looking more consistent as the season goes on, and then continue to upward trajectory from the offense as well. The offense finished the season averaging like 30-something points per game, which was for Rutgers offense very, very strong. Right. So if they can continue that trajectory, I think they'll be continuing success.
Well, Alec, can't thank you enough for all your time, your insight, dropping all your knowledge bombs about Rutgers on here, Locked On Spartans. Anything you want to plug here before we let you go and enjoy your weekend, which will be at Madison Square Garden? You will be in attendance, correct?
Yes, I will be. Very excited. Yeah, always love going to the Garden. So on Twitter, you can follow me at AlexCR12. It's right below my name if you're watching this on video. I write for the Night Report, which is the Rutgers site for rivals, like you said in the beginning. So just go to rutgers.rivals.com. That's where you can find us. Then we also have a podcast as well if you want to check that out. If you're interested in any, all the latest Rutgers stuff, it's called the Night Report Podcast, fitting, of course. You can check that out on either YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And that's about it.
Alec, have a great weekend, my man. Everyone listening, everyone watching, you as well have a great weekend. Let's take care of ourselves. Let's make sure we also mix in the water. That's right. I know it's a very exciting weekend coming up. And hey, guys, until then, we will see you all after this game on Saturday. Go Green. Love you all. Let's go. Whew.